Russia's continuing advances through Ukraine have Republicans on Capitol Hill scrambling to find their footing on a foreign policy message that will help carry them through this fall's midterm elections. In a recent column, The Hill's Niall Stanage wrote about divided sentiment regarding the role that the U.S. should play in Ukraine between the party's hawkish establishment and its non-interventionist wing. And Niall joins us this morning to discuss this recent column. Good morning, Niall.
Morning, Rita.
So Congress as a whole has been pretty unified, right, on the supporting harsh sanctions against Putin. But some Republicans, like the party Senate leader Mitch McConnell, even have gone so far as to praise President Biden's actions against Russia. Never thought I'd see that day. So where is the GOP splintering exactly?
There's really a three-way splinter here, Rita. At one extreme, you have Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, who called on Russian citizens to actually assassinate Vladimir Putin. That was regarded as such a hardline position that even some very conservative senators like Ted Cruz criticized that. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you have these more isolationist figures, often figures allied in some way with President Trump, former President Trump, I should say, who are skeptical of the foreign policy establishment, don't want America to get sucked into this. And then right up the middle, you have people like Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, who has been, as you say, supportive so far of President Biden. So the GOP really having difficulty finding one unified song to sing on this issue.
And you note in your column that some Republicans who are urging caution about getting involved in Ukraine, like Josh Hawley, the congressman from Missouri, have now taken a step back from that stance since Russia actually invaded. So why do you think they had that change of heart? Did they just not realize the severity of what was about to happen?
I think that is a large part of it. Critics would also say, in a way, they backed the wrong horse here, right? I mean, people like Senator Hawley were making the argument that President Biden was exaggerating the threat or was in some way contributing to it. That argument becomes a lot more difficult to make in the circumstances that we're all seeing playing out on our TV screen. In fairness to Senator Hawley, his argument was about Ukrainian membership of NATO. That is a complicated issue, but complicated issues tend to drop by the wayside when there are tanks literally rolling down the street.
Yeah, well put. So how big of a problem, though, really is this for Republicans as they head into the midterms? Do Republicans care, and do Americans as a whole care enough to pick their representatives based on what's happening in Ukraine? I mean, for a while, it looked like Democrats were the party whose infighting would cost them seats. But has that changed, and do Americans really care?
This is a huge question, Rita. You know, the midterm elections are still 8 months away. Will Americans be as engaged in the Ukrainian issue in even 3, 4, 5 months as they are right now? I think a lot of people right now are very understandably impressed, really, by this very valiant Ukrainian resistance. But if it gets to a point where there's a long insurgency after Russia perhaps takes the Ukrainian capital, will Americans stay engaged, particularly when there are so many pressing issues at home? Just a very final point, Rita. The situation in Ukraine, of course, does affect these domestic issues. We're already seeing that with gas prices. We'll see it with other issues too. So the idea that there is a wall of separation between what happens in Ukraine and what happens in the United States is actually very questionable.
All right, Niall, a great column. Thanks so much for joining us today to give us a little synopsis. We appreciate it. And we want to get another check now on weather, more severe weather.
Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click on the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.